He's an Indiana congressman, Marlon Stutzman, joining the program. I think, Marlon, for the first time ever, even though Marlon and I go way back to my days as a news anchor in Fort Wayne, Indiana, when he was a congressman in a different district. How you been, Marlon?
I've been doing great, Dan. It's great to be back, especially under a Trump administration. And talk about shock and awe. We're seeing it from this president. And like you said, we talk about like this is the most important election of our lifetime. I think there's two elections that are critical to the country being a free and prosperous nation. And that's 2016 when Trump was elected, and also 2024 when Trump was elected. And so it's great to be back and supporting Trump in this massive undertaking. And it's so good to see his energy and his drive and his willingness to make tough decisions. And that's why the American people elected him.
So many executive orders. I will just let you fire away whichever the ones you'd like to discuss. Obviously, the border was one of the major reasons Trump was elected. When the polls were conducted, it was the economy first and immigration tied for first with it. And he's wasting no time to get to work, is he?
Yeah, and usually polling shows in politics that the economy is always the number one issue, but the border is such a big concern for the American people because it's about our safety and it's about our security in so many different ways, and that's why finishing the wall, I believe, is priority number one, and that was one of his first executive orders. And I was actually down on the Yuma border about a year ago, and I saw Trump's wall and I saw Biden's efforts of a wall in the little pockets where they were trying to stop those coming across the border illegally. But you know what? Trump's message is right on. And that's why he won the popular vote, because people are fed up with not being able to trust Washington. And that's why, going back to the executive orders with JFK and Robert Kennedy and, of course, Martin Luther King, it's about trust. We as the American people don't trust our own federal government. And so by releasing those documents after 50 years, it's going to, again, show why transparency is so important. So that way the American people trust the federal government rather than not trusting. And that's why it's creating the problems that we've had, because we've had too many people in the swamp thinking they know better than the American people. Well, the American people just answered back.
Yeah, Marlon, people are going to go, you are the government, Marlon. Why don't you know that stuff? Explain to them. It's not that easy. Representatives and senators don't get the information that these bureaucrats, right, and these swamp rats that have been there for decades that have positions that can't be removed, they're not elected, they're the ones keeping the secrets. They don't tell you guys all this stuff, even if you ask, right?
Oh, absolutely. And that's been one of the most frustrating things is that, it's when you ask these agencies for information, they give you what we want to hear many times, or what they think that we should hear. And that's why it's critical for the President of the United States to have his people in place, and the vetting that President Trump has been doing of each of these individuals that are going to be in his cabinet they're rock stars. He's going after a rock star team to make sure and know that they've got a backbone, that they're not going to take a no from some bureaucrat who's going to sit there and say, you know what, you can't touch me. I've got tenure. I've been here for a long time. I'm going to wait you out. That's not going to happen this time around.
Get them out. Marlon, speaking of that, what's happening with our friend Pete Hegseth? That seems to be the biggest one they want to push back, especially Republican senators. Is he going to get confirmed or not? What are you hearing on the Hill?
I think he's going to get confirmed. This has been the rockiest of all of the nominations. But I'll tell you what, I think it's rocky because they know, and I've got friends down at the Pentagon that tell me, maybe 20-30% of the people show up at the Pentagon to go to work. I mean, you go down there and the halls are empty. And people have been taking advantage of the federal government, which is ultimately taking advantage of the American people by not showing up to work and working and taking a second job and just milking off of the system, which is another problem. And that's why the American people are so fed up with what's going on in Washington.
Yep, that crap is over. It is done. People are done. Last question's an easy one to you. did it not make you feel so good to hear from those people, especially like in North Carolina? You could see in their eyes and their voice that they have some hope now that Trump went to visit. FEMA immediately is doing a 180 and starting to help them and giving them vouchers for hotels and more food and more propane tanks, like in 3 days. And Joe couldn't help him for 4 months. I got 30 seconds left. You're a good old boy from the Midwest like me. You're a Hoosier. I won't hold it against you since I'm a Buckeye. But these people, they got their backs turned on from the federal government. And now finally, as the ladies are saying, Daddy's home. Thank God for Daddy Trump.
Amen. And thank God for that, because you know what? Those people were hurting down there. We've got friends down in South Carolina, North Carolina. My wife's from South Carolina. And we've got pictures from friends in Georgia that are still trying to just get by after 4 months from the hurricane damage. And the fact that Trump gets on a plane and is down there and then is in California shows that we needed a president with energy and with drive and a heart that really cares about everybody. And that's what we got in President Trump.